go out and make it happen. You got to want it bad, because that's how you push through fear. That's how you push through limiting beliefs. Or maybe you're comfortable, and that comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we also know nothing freaking grows there, right? You've got to have that burning desire or that hunger, and so it starts with goals. So that's the first thing I did, is reassociate with my goals, which is the first thing I did when I have this stuff in the first place. And then the next piece is you got to make a decision. And I made a decision. Okay, enough is enough feeling sorry for myself.
What happens when people are, 55, 60, they feel like, I don't have as much time as the 25-year-old. There's more behind me than there is in front of me. So I don't have the on-ramp.
I'm 66 years old, okay? And I work out every day. I focus on what I want, not what I don't want. I'm continually working on myself. I have coaches. I do therapy because I had a relationship that failed. I want to be better in the next one. I just went to a men's retreat in Playa del Carmen 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's a continual growth process. But, if you feel that way, you need to be focused on improving what you do, finding something you're passionate about.
There's a version of real estate investing that celebrates the win, the closing photo, the unit count, the cash flow number. But what rarely gets talked about is what happens when all of that disappears. Today's guest knows that story firsthand. Rod Khleif built a massive real estate portfolio and then lost $50 million in the 2008 crash. And instead of disappearing, he rebuilt smarter, stronger, more intentional, like a real estate version of the Bionic Man. Only some of you will get that reference. Today, Rod is one of the most respected voices in multifamily investing. He hosts the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast with download numbers in the 8-figure tier, leads a coaching community responsible for more than 260,000 student-owned units, and teaches more than just apartment fundamentals, but the psychology required to scale wealth and survive downturns. This isn't just about multifamily today. It's about mindset, cash flow, recession-proof thinking, and how elite investors design businesses that can withstand any market. If your ears perked up, my friend, you're in the right place as we go beyond belief with Rod Khleif. Rod, dude, my friend, welcome to the show.
Beyond Belief with Rod Khleif. Man, that was probably, well, I want to listen to this interview. I mean, the way you pumped me up, good Lord. I'm only a legend in my own mind, brother, let me tell you. But thank you for that glowing intro. Let's have some fun, buddy. I'm looking forward to this.
Let's do it, man. So listen, in 2008, I was about 5 years in to my real estate agent career. And then of 2008, of course, came and everything changed. Right? The agents that were selling stuff really easily, flossing their BMWs and all of that stuff, went down to Toyota Corollas for a little while.
Started walking, yeah.
Yeah. So let's walk back through this, man. I don't even want to do the buildup. Everybody knows what happened in 2008. When 2008 came and you saw that you lost $50 million, what on earth went through your mind?
Well, I thought I was set for life. So, it really sucked. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it was not pretty because, I had 800 houses. I had several apartment complexes. I was only to 30% loan to value on everything, and it still crashed and burned. It was actually the houses that pulled me down. But what went through my mind is, I mean, it was painful. And, luckily I've spent a lot of time with Tony Robbins, 23 years with him. He's all about mindset and psychology. And I was actually in his mastermind when it all happened. I love to talk about peer group because, who you hang out with is who you become. And I was around people that were killing it in 2008 and 2009. They were thriving in that crash. I don't know if they were lucky or if they were prepared, but they were killing it. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion, go make something happen. So I was in the right group, I was around the right people. But yeah, no, I basically, I hid under a rock for a few months, but then I pulled myself back up. I knew the strategies because I used them to have 50 million to lose in the first place. And so I got busy with what I know. Got busy figuring, reassociating with my goals, getting out of my pity party. I'm happy to drill down on some of these strategies if you like, but that's basically what I did. I did the same thing I did to have it to lose in the first place. So
yeah, I love that. Let's before we jump into the mind, let's talk about the market itself. As you look back at the market then, are there things that you see kind of peeking or poking around the corner now that
Yes.
in hindsight, you're like, oh my gosh, that was a precursor.
No, I mean, we've been frothing we were frothing, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And with the interest rates, it decimated the multifamily business. My SEC attorney, for example, that does syndications, literally got 6 apartment complex owner foreclosure clients in one day. Okay.
Wow.
This was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so, there's a meltdown. But of course, with crisis comes opportunity. It's incredible opportunity as well. And it's happening right now. I'll give you an example. And I forgot your question, but no, you asked me if it was like '08. I remember, and it was like a light switch happened in '08. I mean, it was like from 1 minute to the next. You remember that? You were in it. And so, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't refinance anything. You couldn't sell anything. I hope that's not going to happen in multifamily, but there's about $1 trillion worth of debt due right now and coming due by the end of this year, rather. And, those operators that have, that means balloon payments, guys, if you're listening. So that means that the debt is due. And, those operators have one of two options. They can either sell or they can refinance. Well, sales are down about 90% right now. And refinancing, you have to meet debt service coverage requirements, meaning the property's ability to service the debt. And with the current interest rates, they don't. And expense ratios have gone through the roof. Expenses have gone through the roof. Hell, I'm paying maintenance supervisors $40 an hour at this point, which is insane. So, I used to teach a 50% expense ratio, meaning all income on the property less property-related expenses should be about 50%. It's very difficult to get it below 60% at this point, and you'll even see higher than that sometimes. And so, it's shifting. The entire market rents have flatlined and even gone down in some areas, areas that had a lot of absorption, a lot of new units coming online. Like I've got assets in San Antonio and Nashville, and both those markets had a lot of new stock come online. So we've seen rents flatline and come back a little bit. So all of these things have created this, this really crisis in the business. But again, with crisis comes opportunity, and right now, I'll give you an example. I've got an asset in San Antonio, 200 units. We call them assets, by the way, if you're new to this. It's an apartment complex. And right next door is a 300 plus unit that sold for $43 million in 22, I believe, 21 or 22, $43 million. Bank owns it. It's down to 28 right now. I'm not even interested unless it gets to 24 because the numbers don't make sense. It's all about cash flow. So, that's what's out there right now. I have a friend that just bought an asset 40 cents on the dollar what it originally sold for. I'm putting a fund together to buy some of these distressed assets at 30, 40 cents on the dollar of cost, actually. And so, there's incredible opportunity upon us, but it's a scary time for investors. The thing, if you're an investor, I want to remind you of Warren Buffett's famous quote: "Be fearful when others are greedy." And there's been a lot of greed these last few years, but the antithesis to that is be greedy when others are fearful. Well, people are fearful right now. So now's the time, if there's ever a time, to get into this business. So
I want to dig into that in a little bit, but let's go backwards for a second. So you just mentioned that you went into hibernation for a little bit when you lost.
Oh yeah, hiding under a rock hiding under a rock, my little eyeball poking out, feeling sorry for myself, right?
Yeah. So, but you were in the right group. What were some of the things that you began to do practically to help you get out of that rut?
Great question. I'll tell you, the first thing I did was I reassociated with my goals. And if you come to one of my boot camps, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids. Because Robert, how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what it is that you want and why you want it. So that's the first thing, because you've got to create that burning hunger or that desire to go out and make it happen. You got to want it bad, because that's how you push through fear. That's how you push through limiting beliefs. Or maybe you're comfortable. And that comfort zone's a nice warm place, and we also know nothing freaking grows there, right? You've got to have that burning desire or that hunger, and so it starts with goals. So that's the first thing I did, is reassociate with my goals, which is the first thing I did when I, to have this stuff in the first place. And then the next piece is you got to make a decision. And I made a decision, okay, enough is enough feeling sorry for myself. And so, and by the way, this decision can be the biggest decision of your life. And the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. If you're going to attack the island, for example, you burn your ships because you're going to use theirs going home. Okay, that's a decision. It's not dipping your toe in the water. It's not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's deciding. And then once you've decided, The next piece is you got to take the first step. Dr. Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But a lot of people, especially those of you that are analytical, and you know who you are, and I love you, and you're some of the most successful people in this business, but you also know how you have to check off every single box before you make a move. Well, you can't do that here. I want to give you the analogy that you can drive across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing, 50 feet in front of you. And you can make it. Other people have made it before you. And you may have some obstacles, but it can be done. It's the same way in my multifamily business or even the other asset classes that I teach. But you've got to take that first step. And, I see it with my students all the time. Like you said, they own upwards of 300,000 units at this point under my tutelage, which is more than everybody else in the business combined that teaches, was something I'm very proud of, plus every other asset class, senior housing, student housing, mobile home parks, industrial flex, you name it. And tons of each one of those as well. But I see this, I call it the law of the first deal. It's the scariest. My students, they're 6 months in, they're complaining, and I'm kicking them in the butt. Keep going. You got this. Keep going. Then they get one. Next thing I know, they have 3. I'm like, what just happened? Well, they recognize that it was all between their ears. And so, but you got to take that first step. You don't want to have any regrets. See, a lot of people fear failure. I'm going to tell you, fear regret. There was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse, that asked patients a question, Robert. She asked them, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's a bestseller, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying or something like that. The number one regret was not living my life the way I could have, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Fear that, right? Yeah. Don't fear failure. Listen, I call my failures seminars. Okay, that was a $50 million seminar. Now, it was an expensive freaking seminar, okay? I've built 29 businesses in my career so far. I was just shocked when I realized how many there were. Several worth tens of millions of dollars. 2 right now are. But most were spectacular, flaming seminars, okay? We fail our way to success. Don't fear failure, fear regret.
So, Rod, you talked about the mindset or reconnecting with your goals. A lot of people, I'll use my kids or young people as an example. You ask them about their goals, they have no doggone idea what the goal is or what it should be, especially if I'm in that place where everything looks like a failure to me. How can I reconnect with a goal and I'm not really clear on how to get the goal in the first place?
Listen, they did a study at Yale University, I don't know, back in the 50s or 60s. I don't have the exact dates on this. But they asked the graduating class how many of them had written goals, specific written goals. 3% did. They circled back to those people 20 years later, and what they discovered was astounding. Those 3% that had written goals, they were happier, they were healthier, and they were worth more than the other 97% combined. Okay, that's the power of goals. So if you're listening and you haven't done your goals, I have a goal setting workshop. It's on my link tree. It's rodslinks.com. RODS, rodslinks.com. At the bottom is my goal setting workshop. It's free. There's a guide you can download. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Go do your goals. Have your spouse do them. If your child's over 10 years old, have them do it. Spend an hour with me. You will leave so motivated you'll be coming out of your skin. Robert, people spend more time planning a Christmas party or a birthday party than they do designing their lives. Doing your goals is designing your life. So again, you come to my boot camp, that's the first thing we do, because I need you to be able to push through fear and push through limiting beliefs. I'll give you an example of that. So what is fear? A lot of people say it's F everything and run. I like to think it's face everything and rise, okay? Because even the most successful people on the planet feel fear, but they push through in spite of it. Action mitigates fear. And limiting beliefs. When I immigrated this country, I got thrown into school. And I actually have the props right here. I got thrown into school and I immigrated from Holland, okay? So my mom was this proud Dutch woman. And I didn't speak English. I found out what bullies were for the first time. And my mom thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in these wooden shoes. These are the actual freaking wooden shoes. We found them when she went into assisted living. And these leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my ass kicked again. And then the bullies would chase me home from school, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. So the next day, ass beaten. And I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? Which, of course, presupposed that I wasn't. And a lot of people have these limiting beliefs, Robert, as you know. I'm not good enough. I'm not courageous enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. whatever. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. And so if you're aware of one of these, I would tell you, drag it out into the daylight. Look at it through your adult rational mind. Recognize there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS. But see, we believe they're real. And so if you look at it consciously, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in front of 10 kids in a classroom, fear of rejection. Now I speak in front of thousands of people a year, literally in flip-flops, okay? Because I looked at it and I recognized, anybody that would really reject me just didn't know me. I'm a gift from God, just like all of us are. And so, so anyway, that's fear and limiting beliefs. And yeah, do your goals, my friends. If you haven't done them recently, do them, because it really, and they evolve over time. Mine used to be the Lamborghini and the Rolls Royce and the Bentley, all this stupid crap I thought was important. And those aren't my goals anymore. I got all that stuff, the beautiful houses and the mansions and all that stupid stuff I thought was important. But your goals I'm not going to say it's stupid to you. It may be really important to you, but they do evolve. So you need to do your goals, at least once a year, if not 2 or 3 times a year, candidly.
Yeah, I want to get to real estate stuff, but there's something else that from a personality and from a mindset standpoint that I want to ask here. So there's a difference between somebody who's 25 and somebody who's 55. And now you're telling a 55.
In what regard, Robert? How are they different?
Well, here's how they think they're different.
Okay, because I just met an 87-year-old literally 15 minutes ago that has our mental acuity. He works out. His name's, what was it? Thomas A. I literally was just on his Instagram page. I'm like, holy crap, you're an inspiration. So, okay, and I'm like, this guy just blew my mind. Literally 15, right before this show, I talked to him. He wants to invest with me. But anyway.
Yeah. So I think what happens when people are, 55, 60, they feel like, I don't have as much time as the 25-year-old. There's more behind me than there is in front of me. So I don't have the on-ramp. I don't have as long as an on-ramp to do this stuff.
I would tell you I'm 66 years old, okay? And I work out every day. I have coaches. I do therapy because I had a relationship that failed. I want to be better in the next one. I just went to a men's retreat in Playa del Carmen 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's a continual growth process. But if you feel that way, you need to be focused on improving what you do, and finding something you're passionate about, and being curious. I tell my kids, I don't think there's a greater quality to teach your kids than curiosity. Again, I'm 66. I'm actually looking at other asset classes right now. Of course, I have thousands of apartment units, but I bought my first assisted living facility a few months ago. I'm getting into senior housing. 10,000 people a day turning 65. Hell, I'm one of them. So there's just incredible opportunity in this world. These people that are turning 65 have businesses. Maybe you go buy businesses, but don't think. Regardless, again, I just met this 87-year-old that blew my mind. He lives in Puerto Vallarta. He's got millions. He's as sharp as you or I. I was so inspired by this guy that this conversation is very timely as it relates to him. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's all I got.
No, you did.
I mean,
you did.
Okay.
You're good. So let's continue on that road and make our way into the real estate. So if I'm somebody that may be a little bit older, if I'm somebody that, and I'll use the number, I'll use 60. And I am just getting started with this idea of real estate, and I don't have a lot of capital. Okay. What is the fastest way, or what's the fastest path to begin participating in multifamily?
Well, yeah, got it. I got it. Yeah. I do. That's a layup for me because I teach multifamily. Okay. I do a virtual boot camp every month and a half. I don't know when this will air, but I've got one coming. If you go, if you're at Rod's Links, my boot camp site is there. I do a 2-day boot camp. I don't sell anything there, and you can come for $47. And the bonuses are worth thousands. You get my deal evaluator software, my document library, my finding deals course. And I don't sell anything. It's 2 days of training for $47. So, again, you gave me a layup. For God's sakes, get your butt to my boot camp if that's you and you want to do this. And if there was ever a time, it's right now, because the proverbial, what's hitting the fan with these deals. And so, there's heavily discounted deals right now. And if it's not real estate, you can buy businesses. These people that are turning 65 have businesses they want to sell. And so there's incredible opportunity. Don't let your age slow you down. I mean, I'm reinventing myself. I will probably start buying some businesses too. There's just so much opportunity upon us. But it's very scary. It's scary for investors and whatnot, because some of them got burned in some of these properties that didn't make it. And I would just tell you, there's where my age shows itself.
You're getting excited, man. That's what that is.
Yeah. But here's another thing though, for the person that's 60, focus is power. Okay, where focus goes, energy flows. And what you focus on gets bigger, both positive or negative. So if you feel like you don't have it, then you're not going to have it. I get people to call me and say, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'm like, wrong question. How do you make so much money? The debt's irrelevant to the question. They asked Mother Teresa if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. I mean, you get it. My podcast is at about 30 million downloads, I think now, which doesn't sound like a lot in our social media world, but for a podcast, it's not bad. And it's the largest commercial real estate podcast really in the world at this point, which blows my mind. But I listen to two podcasts. The reason I'm bringing this up, I listen to Joe Rogan, I listen to Tim Ferriss, because I try to get both sides of the aisle. And the reason I bring that up, they get 30 million a week is why I mentioned that. But on Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in the world, the best athletes, Michael Phelps, swimmer, NFL, NBA players, actors like Hugh Jackman, Ed Norton, Denzel, famous actors, billionaires like Ray Dalio, heads of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. And he deconstructs their success. It's fascinating conversation. And I started to hear a pattern, Robert. They almost all meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus. The most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. So, there's another clue. And if you're 60 and you're thinking you can't do it, as you think it, so shall it be. So start thinking differently. A good book somewhere said that. So start thinking differently, right?
Yeah, I love that, man. So let's talk real estate a little bit. You talked a little bit about the opportunity that's out there now.
Right.
And whenever this airs, I'll say the year, 2026. Okay, we're here. If you had to give somebody a clue about what is the best asset portfolio to begin developing, what's the best thing to start looking at? Where would you tell them?
Well, I would tell them to think what they'd enjoy doing. Okay. I happen to love the elderly. Okay. I love the elderly. I mean, I love kids and things too, but I love the elderly. And I think you have to if you're going to get into senior housing. But here's the key though, Robert, is you want to play to your strengths. There's so many hats you can wear in this business, in my business, multifamily. You can be the one that finds the deals. You can be the analytical person that underwrites the deals. You could be the mouthpiece like me that develops relationships with investors and sellers and brokers. You could be the one that's got some construction experience or some project management experience or just any management experience that does the asset management after you buy it. But you want to play to your strengths. Why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets, and if you're playing to your strengths, you love what you do, and work is play, and you're in the zone or the quan or whatever. I mean, you're really loving life. And so play to your strengths and hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. I'll tell you, the most successful partnerships I see, and I've had some of the biggest multifamily operators on the planet here in my studio, are the ones where you got an analytical introvert with an outgoing extrovert. That's a match made in heaven in this business because it's primarily empirical, but you still got to build the relationships. And so, again, I tell you, play to your strengths, because also if you play to your strengths, you're passionate, right? I mean, maybe you can feel my passion. I love this. I love doing what I do here. And passion is infectious. So if you're playing to your strengths, people are going to love it because you're passionate about it, and passion's required to influence people, right? So there you go.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I could go down the rabbit hole because we could talk a lot about financing. We could talk about how to do all of that. I know you've got
but you know what? This mindset is more important than all of that, right? 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Yeah, we can do the mechanics. We can do another show about that. Just get your butt to my boot camp. Go to Rod's links and go there. We'll do the mechanics. Just bring your A game, drink a lot of water because some of it's dry. But there's a reason my students are so freaking successful. It's because they actually do it. And that's why mindset's so important.
Yeah. So you brought up Martin Luther King Jr. earlier. You brought up some stuff when you talked about decision, desire, and I forgot what the other thing, but it sounded like some Napoleon Hill stuff.
Oh
inside
yeah,
of
Napoleon Hill's. Well, I spent 23 years with Tony Robbins. Okay, he's like one of my greatest mentors. You know, when I got in the business, by the way, I got my broker's license as a realtor when I was 18. You could do it back then with education. They got smart. Now you need some experience. I could have my own office, but the first guy I worked for, the broker, I was smart enough to work for a broker. First guy I worked for started this conversation with me about mindset and psychology. But then like I say, I spent 23 years with Tony, who's the best in the world at it, and helped me focus on what I want, not what I don't want. I could have let that loss of $50 million be my story. People have stories that hold them back. And I just use it for teaching now. And whatever you do, guys, if you're listening, don't let your vehicle, be it real estate, buying businesses, don't let your vehicle be your identity. Okay? Because if the vehicle fails and it's your identity, you're a failure. But I've had numerous vehicles that have failed. I'm not a failure. They've just failed, People that jump out of buildings when they lose money, or there was that crypto guy killed himself in his Lambo about less than a year ago. I mean, they made it their identity. So don't do that. Make sure it's your vehicle, not your identity.
I love it. So you've listed rodlinks.com.
Rod's Links is the best place. Rod's Link. Cool. Yeah. And there's my goal setting thing is there. I've got free books there. My podcast link is there. Check out my podcast, please. I think you'll love it. Boot camp's there. And if the price is more than $47, just DM me on any social. I'll get you that price if you just tell me you're on Robert's show here.
Fantastic. Leave us with
It's a Tony quote, live with passion. Passion is my favorite word. You get to the end of your life, don't have regrets. Exhale and go, whew, what a ride. Okay, and I'm starting to see that, but this 87-year-old, I tell you, he really juiced me. I'm like, oh man, I got maybe 15 years left. No, he's 87 and he works out every day. I was like so motivated by this guy. So it's fresh. That's why I brought it up. But that's how you want to end your life and live your life with passion. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Rod. Hey, my friends, listen, deals matter, numbers matter, but mindset determines whether you survive long enough to benefit from either. Rod's story.
Or recover from losing.
I love it. I love it. Rod's story proves that resilience is not optional. It's foundational. Cash flow over hype, systems over ego, psychology over panic. Because guess what? Markets shift, cycles turn, leverage gets larger and smaller, but disciplined investors with clarity of thought adapt. So if this episode stretched how you think about wealth, downturns, or your own capacity to scale, don't just listen, adjust, then listen again and take some notes, because it's not if, but when it hits the fan. Thanks for tuning in, my friends. Now get on out there and make a change, because it's your turn to be iconic. We'll see you on the next episode.